Hi, I'm Catherine Diorio, and welcome to Check Please, the show where regular people from all over Chicago recommend and review their favorite restaurants. So this is how the show works. Every week we have 3 guests. Each recommends his or her favorite spot, and the other 2 go check them out and see what they think. This week, sales and marketing rep Jennifer Dominic says the pasta and passion at her pick always exceeds expectations. She says for Italian fare, beyond compare, join her at her Wicker Park spot. But medical technologist Kathy Williams says her heart skips a beat when she thinks about her selection. She says for a bounty of British delights, follow her to her Bridgeport favorite. Up first, realtor Todd Schisler says his recommendation always closes the deal. He says for Korean American food that will have you jumping for joy, check out what chefs Beverly Kim and Johnny Clark are cooking up at Parachute.
Expect a very fun environment, drinks and creative, fun food that has a lot of soul, a lot of Korean American inspiration, also kind of globally inspired as well. Just a good time.
I think you could also, we like to push people's boundaries slightly, but still keep it grounded. Five o'clock to 6. You might catch a couple families in here. After that, it gets pretty hopping, yeah, it gets pretty bumping. I don't want to say the word rowdy, but it gets fun in here like around like 9:30.
Yeah.
Honestly, it feels great. I mean, it's what every chef wants. We just want to be down to earth and humble. We want to stay a neighborhood place. We don't ever want it to be flashy.
We're really grateful. We're best friends, and I think that's why this place does work and really depend on each other to make this place come together.
Todd, you say Parachute has you floating on air. Tell us why you chose it.
I like that every time I go there, whether it's with friends or with my kids, that's a new experience. The menu is constantly changing and evolving. Even if I go once a month, I can have something totally different than the last time that I went.
So what kind of food is it there?
It's Korean, but I would not call it a Korean restaurant. For example, pork ribs. Absolutely one of my favorite things on the menu forever and ever and ever. Koreans don't eat pork ribs, but it has Asian influences in the type of marinade that it might be used on the ribs. It's a Korean flavor, Korean influences, but it's a creative in every single way.
One of my favorite things was the ribs. But we also had the mung bean pancakes, and my son got the noodles. The restaurant was varied enough for all of the people who were with us, you know, the grandchildren as well as the vegetarian, and we really enjoyed it.
I loved it. I thought the food was phenomenal. We definitely loved stuffed. What I loved about it the most was that everything is shareable. So for me, I don't like to have just one entree. Like, I get very sick of the taste really quickly. So being able to share and like try several different things was great. We started off with that bing bread and some fresh oysters, which were phenomenal. They had a really nice like salt that came with it. It was like a lime salt. It was almost like in rock form, and you just pour that on there like by little spoonfuls. I feel like it totally enhanced the taste of like the sea, I guess. We also got these tempura sesame stuffed leaves. They were so good. What sold us on it though is that there were caramelized onions on the inside, and I'm like an onion freak. So it was really nice getting that sweetness in there.
The baked potato bean bread was divine.
So good.
It has pieces of baked potato baked into this herbed bread.
Yeah.
And it's served with sour cream butter, which is really good.
I know, I was lathering that right on there.
Right, it's delicious.
Todd, you told us pork ribs, but what else?
Oh, that pork secreto. The mung bean pancake is to die for.
The chicken dish is delicious.
Incredible. And in fact, we had it for the first time ever last time because it sounds like, oh, chicken.
Yeah.
It's out of this world.
It's delicious.
Also, one of the constant foods is bibimbap, which bibimbap, for people to know, is traditionally a leftover course that Koreans will make with whatever happens to be left in their, but they switch up the proteins.
Well, and that's kind of one of the things that Beverly Kim and Johnny Clark, the chefs, they're married, and the chefs that own the restaurant together, really try to do is take these traditional Korean dishes and modernize them. They might add some Western influence, and a bibimbap is a really great example of that because typically you'll see it'll be the same 6 vegetables, but here they'll use corn or kale, all of these things you would never see on a Korean menu ever.
Everyone's had a Chinese restaurant. Everyone's had a Japanese restaurant. There's a lot of people who've never gone to a Korean restaurant.
Or it's Korean barbecue.
Or it's Korean barbecue. And they have no idea what the food is and what to order. And I think this is less intimidating.
My fiance tries to be a foodie with me, but like he needs descriptions of everything. We relied on the servers for everything. Every suggestion she had, most of them were on point, exactly what we wanted, what we were looking for.
On the question of servers, how much of a role does a server play in how adventurous you become in your ordering?
I think they're everything. They are the ones who are going to kind of open up that menu for you and get you to try that dish that you're reading it and it doesn't sound familiar, you're not sure you really like bean pancakes or whatever, and so it really helps a lot, I think, to have that input.
Let's talk about the vibe there. What's it like?
Well, we were there really early, and when we went in, it was virtually empty.
Okay.
But when we came out, there was a line. So we were really glad we had gone early. It was on a Friday night. So I think it must just really get to be hopping after a while.
This place was like the white elephant. For me, I could not. It took me forever to finally get a reservation, but like when we did, it was a late dinner, but it was crazy to see how many people were still there at 9:30 at night. It was a heavy crowd still.
So what kind of people were there? What was the crowd like?
Young adults seemed like total foodies. It had a little bit of a hipster vibe to it, especially around that time of night, I think. I think if I went earlier, I would see a totally different crowd, but because it was a little later, that's who I saw.
Todd, you chose Parachute. Sum it up for us.
Wonderful Korean influences, wonderful Korean flavors without being a Korean-specific restaurant.
Kathy?
The restaurant was varied enough for all of the people who were with us. We really enjoyed it.
Jenny?
Great service, great wine, and just really hearty, eclectic dishes.
You can try the Bing Bread and more at Parachute, 3500 North Elston Avenue, 773-654-1460. Open for dinner Tuesday through Saturday. Reservations are accepted, and the average tab per person without drinks is $33. Jennifer Dominic really loves Italian food. So even when she can't jet off to Roma, Napoli, or Bologna, she can head on over to her favorite spot on Division Street and enjoy the nuanced classics at Nando, Milano.
Let me know if you have any question for the food.
I love to make people happy. This is what I love. When they clean the plate, they go away with a big smile. This is what makes me feel they accomplish our goals. To look at this beautiful man and the food that he does, Alessio is a great talent.
I learned to cook from my grandmother. Simple food. Simple is the best. Fresh, simple, and when you cook with your heart, with your passion, everything is possible.
That is true. No, think about lasagna, fettuccine bolognese, grana padano, the prosciutti, tortellini. We go home and we just chill with a good glass of wine or limoncello, no? And gelato maybe?
Gelato, yeah, maybe, and then
relax, go to sleep.
Finito, 86.
No, even no more date. Before we were dating, no more. Only you can do Tinder, I cannot. I'm bad.
Ah, yeah.
This Tinder here and there, I'm like, oh my God.
Jennifer, you say Nando Milano is fantastico. Tell us why you chose it.
It is just down-home Italian food, but it is still refined, and when you go there, you feel like you're in somebody's kitchen by the way that they welcome you, the way they talk to you. But the menu and like the food is just so delicious and so fresh. I love like the grilled calamari. There's another grilled octopus dish, the fried calamari, great mussels and a nice marinara sauce. It's just all so fresh, and you just feel like you're in Italy.
Is this a Italian red sauce joint or not?
This is an Italian red gravy joint. Yes, everything is, it's not anything that's very heavy. It's all very light. Even all of their sauces, like their white wine sauces, this is not the type of place where you get Alfredo necessarily, or everything is garlic white wine or sun-dried tomato sauce, which is nice. It's, you still get the heartiness, but it's light.
So Todd, what'd you think?
It was okay. In my opinion, it was just okay. I really wanted to like it more. I actually hated the grilled calamari.
You did?
It was so flavorless, and it was just, and I'm like, wait a minute, maybe I'm missing something. It was like chewing on a tire.
Oh my gosh, I hope it was an off day, because usually when I get it,
And
it's so
they raved
seasoned.
about it.
Yeah.
And then we went, huh. And we really ordered a ton of food. Some of the pastas were either, they didn't figure out how to do the seasoning. So either it was so salty that you're going, wow, or it was so bland that you're, huh. Will say this, I loved the lasagna bolognese. Out of this world,
And that's the
wonderful.
one thing I have to say to like anyone that goes there is, please get anything with bolognese or their ragouts, because I feel like they take so much time on those, and there's so much flavor, there's so much seasoning. So like you were saying, there were some like things that were kind of flavorless. I feel like with like ragouts and bolognese, you get tons of flavor, especially with fresh pasta.
Okay, well, Todd, sounds like it didn't quite hit the mark for you, but what about you, Kathy?
We
What'd
had
you
an outstanding appetizer in the stuffed artichoke, which I thought was delicious. And we also got the rice balls, which I forget what the Italian. Yes, we thought those were really good. And for the entrees, we had the veal scallopini and the cavatelli, I believe it was, and the other was the ravioli with the lobster crab and in lobster bisque with mussels, which was delicious, really good. We had delicious desserts. We got the ricotta cheesecake, which
So
is
good.
really good, and the profiteroles and the tiramisu. I wasn't that impressed with the tiramisu, but the other two were really good.
I also had the tiramisu. And we had a chocolate, some sort of chocolate cake.
Was it the
with
molten cake?
The molten cake.
Yeah.
And that was delicious.
That's
that was
my
very, very
favorite
good.
dessert.
I will say,
It
I
is
did
soft.
like the wine. We had a Montepulciano by the glass, and it was outstanding. Very, very good.
So the owners, Dario and Alessio, they're from Italy. They actually come from a restaurant family in Italy, born in Sicily, moved up to Milan, and then one of the brothers went to Bologna, which is probably why you like bolognese sauce and the ragouts, because that's very, very common to get in that area. That's a specialty of that region. So everything is homemade, imported from Italy, and they do try to keep it very authentic. Let me ask you a question, Jenny. So it's in Wicker Park. It's on, a fun street. It's a hip neighborhood. What's the vibe like at the restaurant?
It's actually so different from the rest of Division. I've lived in that area for 2 years, and that's why I like it so much. It's so different. There's no rowdiness. There are no college kids at like a bar just like howling and screaming. It's very quiet, but there's like families there and people sharing, just people laughing, but without all the hectic or craziness.
There's actually several families with children when we first got there.
There were when we got there too. In fact, it looked like there were regulars there. We ate inside, but there were a lot of people outside. So we had gotten our wine, and we didn't get it refilled until we were almost finished with our dishes. But
Which is pretty shocking, because whenever I'm there, actually, I always say, like, I feel like you guys are pouring too much wine. Like every time I'm looking, somebody's there to refill my glass. So it's crazy that you say that.
were you outside?
I was sitting outside the prior. visit. But when I'm sitting inside too, I feel like because it's such a small space, they're very attentive to you because it only seats 40 people.
Right.
So,
Jenny, you chose Nando Milano. Sum it up for us.
delicious, authentic, homey Italian food, but with a nice refined twist.
Great. And Todd?
I didn't hate it. Would probably go back if I was in the neighborhood, but I wouldn't probably drive across town for it.
Okay. And Kathy?
We felt like we would recommend it to people who were in the neighborhood and perhaps go back if we were in the neighborhood, but maybe not a destination.
You can try the Bolognese and more at Nando Milano, 2114 West Division, 773-486-2636. Open for dinner every day, reservations are accepted, and the average tab per person without drinks is $38. Kathy Williams says everyone gets the royal treatment at her favorite spot. She says for perfect pies that will take you from Bridgeport to Britain, make your way to 31st Street and join her at Pleasant House Bakery.
So when somebody steps into Pleasant House Bakery for the first time, we hope that they experience a fun, aromatic, and tasty environment.
Well, we specialize in royal pies, so it's our own style of British-inspired meat pies. We also do vegetarian pies.
They can sit in our dining room, or they can place their order and we'll deliver it to them next door at Maria's.
Working with Art is fantastic. He's very subordinate, which I like in an employee. He's also a lot of fun, and most of all, he is a fantastic chef, and I couldn't think of a better partner to work with or to learn from.
Or what she said, I guess. Love our craft. We love what we do. We're doing something that we're making ourselves and that we can stand behind and be proud of.
You really can't ask for anything better than to go to bed at night knowing that you've worked with people that you really care about and be in a community that cares about you and having everyone enjoy it.
So Kathy, you say Pleasant House Bakery puts a smile on your face. Why'd you choose it?
I had read that the fish and chips there were really good, and I was in Bridgeport, which is not really, it's kind of becoming a new destination point. And so I had to kind of look for the restaurant. It's kind of looked like a lean-to because it's very
an old hot dog stand.
Very unassuming. But I did find it. I went in, I had the fish and chips, and by the time I got through it looked like a wonderful English pub because the fish and chips are really good. I also love the meat pies. They're excellent for an entree for dinner. I've had the Sunday brunch, which is a really full plate and very English because it has blood sausage, Canadian bacon, baked beans, and an egg, which is a most unusual breakfast. Yes. One of the delights that I just had when I went back this time was their salad. And their salad is so fresh. The couple who opened this restaurant are farm to table. They have a farm. They grow their own food. They also have a restaurant in Michigan where they have a microbrewery, but they don't serve wine at their restaurant. So when you go there, if you want a drink, you have to go next door to Marie's. So
We're going to talk about that in a second. I want to see what Todd thought about Pleasant House.
You know what? It was something that I've had on my list of things to try. It's an area that I don't normally get to in the city. So it was kind of like, oh, I don't think we're in Kansas anymore as we drove down there. It was totally simple inside. It was wonderful though, as far as the food. I don't know that I could do it on a regular basis because it's also very, very heavy. And the flavors were super, super strong.
I agree with you. I've never had their desserts because I'm always so full.
Oh, we couldn't even finish half of one of the desserts because it was so rich.
Yes.
Really good though. We had steak and ale pie. We had, I believe they call it the chips and gravy. And it's basically chunks of potatoes with chunks of meat and cheese and all sorts of yummy.
Their version of a
Like
poutine.
Exactly, exactly.
It was delicious.
It's delicious. But now if you go through that, you can hardly walk out the door.
Oh, it was ridiculous. It was very fun. I was truly impressed with their attitudes too. There was only one person in there.
They were
I was gonna say,
so
Jenny,
nice there.
what did you think overall? Like,
I was just so blown away by the service. We couldn't believe how kind they were. We got there and honestly, it's very kind of dingy inside, and it kind of, even on the outside too, at first I didn't even know if it was open because like the windows were all closed, but then the people that work there are just so nice. There's only one person there and then a cook.
Art and Chelsea Jackson own Pleasant House Bakery, and as you were saying, Kathy, they are farmers, and that's something that they're really passionate about. And Art is actually British and grew up. His childhood home was called Pleasant House, which is why they call it the Pleasant House Bakery.
We had this chicken balti pie, which I know is like a staple on their menu, but we asked the guy at the counter. They actually grind all of their spices in-house. They get it from somewhere, some artisanal like spice market, and they grind it there. So it's very authentic Indian flavors in that pie.
And they mill all of their own grains as well.
Right.
So, okay, let's get back to this Maria's. So there's a place called Maria's Packaged Goods, and you can take your meat pies to go.
In fact, they advise you if you want to have an alcoholic drink, you can go to Maria's and we'll bring your meal to you.
Because Pleasant House only has, it's very limited seating.
They
It's
only
about
have
20
like
seats inside.
5 tables, right.
Yeah.
Tell me, describe Maria's Packaged Goods.
The weirdest place I have ever been to, but in the best way
awesome, though.
possible.
It
Yeah,
is
the
so
most
cool.
charming way.
I am not cool enough to go to. I was not nearly trendy and hip enough.
It's a student hangout because you're not that far from IIT, and you see a lot of students in there, and they will drink first, and then they'll go next door and get food, and then they come back, and the food comes later.
Oh my gosh, it's just totally fun and cool. We never even sat down at Pleasant House. We went directly to Maria's, and he just found us. I mean, there was no issue whatsoever.
It's almost like an extension of the restaurant.
It really was.
Right.
I was saying that you can't go to one without going to the other, I feel like. They go so hand in hand.
Right.
And it's just really nice that they work together like that.
They were totally
And I
accommodating.
swear, I think we saw Maria herself,
Oh,
like
yeah.
the lady at the counter. And then when we
part
go
of
to
me.
the bar, there's like a portrait. And I'm like, I think that's that same woman.
So Kathy, you chose Pleasant House Bakery. Sum it up for us.
The fish and chips are really good and my favorite thing to order there, but the meat pies are delicious to take home.
And Todd?
Totally fun, creative, not everyday food that you can get in an area that I've never been to before.
Jenny?
Really yummy, hearty pies with great crust and great ingredients on the inside.
You can taste the pies for yourself at Pleasant House Bakery, 964 West 31st Street, 773-523-7437. Open for lunch and dinner Tuesday through Sunday. Reservations are not accepted. Alcohol is BYOB, and the average tab per person is $12. So on this week's show, we featured Parachute in Avondale, Nando Milano in Wicker Park, and Pleasant House Bakery in Bridgeport. Let's recap what our guests had to say. First, we made our way to Elston and popped in at Parachute. Todd recommends it for the Korean cuisine that's to die for. Kathy loved the food and thought it was great for her family. Jennifer appreciated the shareable options and thought the service was great. Next, we dined on Division at Nando Milano. Jennifer recommends it for down-home Italian and warm service. Todd thought the food was just okay. Kathy had a nice meal and loved the fresh pasta. Lastly, we went down to 31st Street and checked out Pleasant House Bakery. Kathy recommends it for delicious savory pies and fish and chips. Todd found the food to be wonderful and very filling. Jennifer was blown away by the kind service and delicious meat pies. We had such a nice time this week. I want to thank my guests, Todd Schisler, Jennifer Dominic, and Kathy Williams. Join us next week for 3 new guests recommending 3 of their favorite restaurants right here on Check Please. I'm Catherine Diorio, and I'll see you then. Cheers.
For more information about the restaurants featured on Check Please, go to WTTW.com/checkplease.